Let's get started. Number 10, you're left-handed. If you wrote with your left hand in medieval Europe, people assumed you had to deal with the devil. The word sinister literally comes from the Latin word for left. Teachers would tie children's left hands behind their backs to force them to use the right one. They called the left hand the devil's hand. About 10% of people are naturally left-handed. That means in any medieval village, a few people were walking around with what neighbors considered proof of dark magic. Left-handed people were also believed to give the evil eye more easily. If you happened to be left-handed and someone's cow got sick, guess who they blamed? Even today, some cultures consider left-handedness unlucky. Back then, it could get you burned alive. Number 9, you own a cat, specifically a black one. Medieval Europeans were terrified of cats. Pope Gregory IX declared black cats to be instruments of Satan in the 1230s. This kicked off centuries of cat massacres across Europe. People believed witches could transform into cats at night. They thought cats carried the souls of demons. If you were a lonely old woman with a cat for company, that was basically a confession. Here's the ironic part. Killing all those cats led to an explosion in the rat population. Those rats carried fleas. Those fleas carried the Black Death. Medieval Europeans killed cats because they thought cats were evil. Then they died by the millions from a plague that cats could have helped prevent. The cats were literally protecting them. Number 8, you survived a disease. If everyone around you got sick and died, but you stayed healthy, that was suspicious. People assumed you made a deal with dark forces. The medieval mind couldn't understand immune systems. They couldn't grasp that some people naturally resist certain diseases. During plague outbreaks, survivors were sometimes accused of witchcraft. You were supposed to die with everyone else. The fact that you didn't meant something unnatural was going on. Some accused witches were literally being punished for being healthy. Your own immune system could sign your death warrant. Number 7, you knew too much about plants. Women who understood herbal medicine were walking targets. They knew which plants eased pain, which ones helped with childbirth, which ones could cure fevers. This knowledge was suspicious. Where did you learn this? Who taught you? The church wanted a monopoly on healing. They said only God could cure a disease. If some village woman was successfully treating people with plants, she was competing with divine power. Many executed witches were just early medical practitioners. They understood that willow bark reduced fevers. We now know that's because it contains salicylic acid, the main ingredient in aspirin. These women were practicing medicine. We killed them for it. Number 6, you talked back. Medieval women were expected to be silent and obedient. If you argued with your husband, that was suspicious. If you argued with a priest, that was worse. If you argued with anyone in authority and turned out to be right, you might be accused of witchcraft. Courts actually recorded sharp tongues as evidence against accused witches. Being assertive as a woman was seen as unnatural. Where did she get this confidence? Obviously from the devil. Many accused witches were simply women who refused to be quiet. They had opinions and expressed them. In a world where women were supposed to be invisible, visibility was dangerous. Number 5, you had a birthmark. Any unusual mark on your body could be interpreted as the devil's mark. Witch hunters would strip accused women naked and search every inch of their bodies. Moles, birthmarks, scars, anything unusual was evidence. They believed the devil literally branded his followers. They would poke these marks with needles. If it didn't bleed or you didn't feel pain, that proved it was Satan's mark. Of course, some people have areas of reduced sensitivity. Some moles don't bleed much when poked. The witch hunters didn't know this. They just knew they'd found proof. Some accused witches were condemned because they had a mole in the wrong place. Number 4, you were too attractive. Beautiful women were dangerous. Where did that beauty come from? Obviously, you seduced the devil. Medieval art often showed witches as seductive figures. Men who felt attracted to women blamed those women for bewitching them. If a man had inappropriate thoughts about you, that was your fault. You cast a spell on him. Some accusations were clearly just men explaining away their own desires. She must be a witch because I can't stop thinking about her. This was also a convenient way to destroy women who rejected advances, turn down the wrong man, get accused of witchcraft. Number 3, you were too ugly. Wait, didn't we just say being attractive was dangerous? Yes, that's the trap. If you were beautiful, you had bewitched people with your looks. If you were ugly, you looked like a witch. Old women with wrinkled skin, missing teeth, hunched backs were prime targets. The classic witch image we still use today came from medieval stereotypes about elderly women. Many accused witches were simply old, poor, and alone. Society's most vulnerable people, no one to defend them, easy targets. If you were an old woman living alone, you fit the profile. If you were a beautiful young woman, you fit a different profile. Either way, you fit a profile. Number 2, you floated. The swimming test was one of the most famous witch detection methods. They'd tie you up and throw you in water. If you sank, you were innocent. Also, possibly drowned. If you floated, you were guilty. The water was rejecting you because you rejected baptism. This was literally a no-win situation. Die proving your innocence or survive and be executed. Bodies float or sink based on body composition and lung capacity. Some people naturally float better than others. Fat floats. Air in the lungs creates buoyancy. Physics determined your fate. Accused witches were killed by buoyancy. Number 1, your neighbor didn't like you. This was the real reason behind most accusations. Medieval witch trials weren't usually about catching actual practitioners of dark magic. They were about settling scores. Your neighbor's crops failed after you had an argument. Witchcraft. Someone's baby got sick after you looked at it. Witchcraft. You refused to lend someone milk and then their cow died. Definitely witchcraft. Accusations peaked during times of social stress. Bad harvests, plagues, economic troubles. People needed someone to blame. The easiest targets were people already on society's margins. The strange, the poor, the different. Historians estimate that between 40,000 and 60,000 people were executed as witches in Europe. Most were women. Most were vulnerable. And most were killed not because they practiced magic, but because they were convenient scapegoats for problems no one could explain. The witch trials eventually ended, not because people got smarter about magic, but because legal systems started requiring actual evidence. Turns out when you need proof beyond a neighbor saying, "She gave me a weird look," accusations drop dramatically. But for centuries, being left-handed, owning a cat, knowing about medicine, or just being disliked could get you killed. And we like to think we're past all this. But we still look for people to blame when things go wrong. We still target people who are different. The stakes are just lower now. Usually. By the way, do you think you would be accused of being a witch if you lived back then? Let me know for what reason in the comments. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them. Here is another video you might enjoy. Go check that out.